All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is Wednesday, and you know what that means. Time to dive deeper into the lost wisdom of the pharaohs and the Corpus Hermeticum, the divine Pymander. Isn't that a cool picture there on the front? Original manuscript, Hermes Trismegistus, 3rd century AD. New edition, 2015, but as I usually say, there's probably a newer edition, maybe, because 2015 is now getting close to almost a decade ago. However, last week we went through section number 5, or book number 5, that was called God is not manifest and yet is most manifest, and it described the nature of God. It was very fascinating, and that was profound as always. And so I'm very excited for today's lesson entitled That God Alone is Good. And remember, when referring to God, it's talking about a universal source or force or energy field that contains everything. In the Egyptian tradition, sometimes referred to as Atum, the one God, that contains all the other minor gods that have to do with astrology and all of that within it. But without me going on too much of a ramble tangent like I usually do, let us dive into book or chapter number 6 in the Corpus Hermeticum, entitled That God Alone is Good. And thank you for joining me. So it starts, number 1, God, all Asclepius, is in nothing but in God alone, or rather God himself is always good. So this must be Thoth, Tahat, or Hermes Trismegistus talking to Asclepius in this one, which is funny because he often is talking with Asclepius. Number 2, and if it be so, then must he be an essence or substance, void of all motion and generation? But nothing is void or empty of him. So God, O Asclepius, is in nothing but in God alone, or rather God himself is always good. That was number 1. Number 2, and if it be so, then he must be an essence or substance, void of all motion or generation, but nothing is void or empty of it or him. 3, and this essence has in itself a stable and firm operation, wanting nothing, most full, and giving abundantly. 4, one thing is the beginning of all things, for it gives all things. And when I name the good, I mean that which is altogether and always good. 5, this is present to none but God alone, for he wants for nothing that he should desire to have. Nor can anything be taken from him that the loss would grieve him, for sorrow is part of evilness. And I'll add, sorrow is not part of good. And if you remember, it said, once again, that which is altogether and always good. So not sometimes good, not part of the time good, literally indefinitely, forever good. And so this is very fascinating. It's making me think about other things that's mentioned before around the same kind of concept when dealing with the gods and the heavens and the creation of the gods and all, and how they had a fixed infinite pattern or formation or cycle that they go through, and it was a duality. It had a dual nature, much like we do, to where it's fixed and unchanging, but at the same time ever moving. And so that's what that was making me think of there, how that, not which is just good sometimes. I'll read number 4 again there. one thing in the beginning of all things, for it gives all things. And when I name the good, I mean that which is altogether and always good. Number 5, this is present to none but God alone, for he wants nothing that he should desire to have, nor can anything be taken from him that the loss would grieve him, for sorrow is part of evilness. Number 6, nothing is stronger than he, that he should be opposed by it, nor nothing equal to him, that he should be in love with it. Nothing unheard of to be angry, with nothing wiser to be envious at. 6, nothing is stronger than he, that he should be opposed by it, nor nothing equal to him. That's so fascinating how it, nothing equal. It's like we are all, because in previous chapters of this, it's described how we are all connected to and a part of and inside, the universe being all of creation, being God continuously. And we are a part of that. And so it's very interesting how it's breaking down that you can't, that from the viewpoint of God, that there's nothing stronger, that it should be opposed, nothing equal, that it should be in love, which is weird that equal would turn into love, and where something that is stronger would turn into something that would be opposed. Nothing wiser to be. So number 7, and none of these being in his essence, what remains but only the good. Number 8, for as in this, being such an essence, there is none of the evils, so in none of the other things shall the good be found. Number 9, for in all other things are all those other things, as well in the small as the great, as well in the particulars as this living creature, the greater and the mightiest of all. Number 10, for all things that are made or generated are full of will, generation itself being by a will. And where will is, there is not the good. Where the good is, there is no will. Where it is day, it is not night. Where it is night, it is not day. This is different than what I've heard before so far, researching hermetics, but I'm never surprised because it is always paradoxical. However, for all the things, so it's saying that God, this pure force that is good, cannot be, it contains all things, so therefore it is not tarnished, so to speak, by it. And so for all the things that are made or generated are those things that are not it, or not eternally good. Remember back in the beginning, it said, is nothing, God is in nothing but in God alone. Or rather, God himself is always good. And so then it must be an essence or substance, void of all motion or generation, but nothing is void or empty of him. So everything has this, or is connected to this. However, this, or God, is above the things of generation, which would be the physical, material, manifest things that we see in the material realm. But stable and firm operation. See, one thing is the beginning of all things. So God, or the source, or the Tao, or Atum, whatever you want to call it, the source is the beginning of all things. So like we've talked about with the Tao Te Ching before, how the Tao that is named becomes the mother of the 10,000 things, or all of the things that we see. The Tao that is not named is the eternal Tao, or the oneness of all of these things that we seem to see as separate from our, duality, ego. I think I said it yesterday in the chat room, and I forget how I said it. It was really good. It was like, it is the ego that causes us the illusion of duality while we are existing within the oneness. So one thing is the beginning of all things, for it gives all things. And when I name the good, I mean that which is altogether and always good, not the other things. What remains but only the good. So for it right here, number 9, for in all other things are all those other things. That is not the good. It doesn't say that, but I'm guessing that's what it's getting at, because it's talking about that God alone is good, which is the title of today's section. Hopefully you're getting value so far. This one is a lot more perplexing than I thought it would be. But that is a great segue. Just one sec to go to the most important teaching, I think, of Hermetics and Hermes Trismegistus, or the sage Egyptian god Thoth, which is that contemplation. To really understand this, and this I have to remind myself every time, so that's why I like to remind us every time, is that pure philosophy is spiritual striving through a constant contemplation, through a constant meditation, a constant thinking about it, to attain true knowledge of Atum, the one God. And so those were the first words in the prophecies of Hermes in the Hermetica, ladies and gentlemen. That was a fun book too. If you missed that series, go back and check that out on this channel. We did that was about half a year ago, I think, maybe a little longer. But see, that sentiment, that constant contemplation, is the way that we can actually come to attain true knowledge of Atum, or reality of God, which is what we're talking about here. And so if this is getting kind of deep, don't worry, that's normal. But, so number 10, for all things that are made or generated, so those are the things in the physical material realm that are not God, but they are of God, a part of God. See, this is a confusing thing, is when you say everything is in God, or a part of the oneness. Then you could get confused and say everything is God. And I like to look at it like that. It's nice, but there is a distinction, most important distinction, between the things that are made and generated and that which is doing the generation. And so the things that are made or generated are full of will, generation itself being by a will. Where will is, there is not the good. Where the good is, there is no will. Where it is day, it is not night, and where it is night, it is not day. What do you mean, O Hermes Trismegistus? If I was Asclepius, I would be asking. And so, number 13, for it is destructible and movable, and the maker of destructible things. 14, in man also is the good. In man also the good is ordered in comparison of that which is evil. For that which is not very evil is here good, and that which is here called good is the least particle or proportion of evil. For here the good, that's fascinating. In man also is the good ordered. So I'm guessing good and evil is ordered in a certain way in comparison of that which is evil, for that which is not very evil is here good. So there's a balance, so to speak. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments below. And that which is here called good is the least particle or proportion of evil. 15, it is impossible, therefore, that the good should be here pure from evil, for here the good enlarges evil. In growing evil, it does not still abide good, and not abiding good, it becomes evil. 16. Therefore, in God alone is the good, or rather, God is the good. Therefore, O Asclepius, there is nothing in men but the name of good. The thing itself is not, for it is impossible for a material body receives, is not as being on every side encompassed and coacted with evils and labors and griefs and desires and wrath and deceits and foolish opinions. See, it's describing our dual nature, our mortal, evil. Sometimes it terms it the survival, animalistic parts of us that is part of existing in this physical realm. And then the spiritual part of us that is the good, that is that part of us that is connected to God. As described in the Hermetica, our minds are but smaller versions of the mind of God. And this is why man is a marvel, that we have this ability and this power of mind to use and to see the beauty in the world. And if we don't take advantage of that, then it is unfortunate. Number 18. And in that, which is the worst of all, Asclepius, every one of the forenamed things is here believed to be the greatest good, especially the supreme mischief, gluttony, and the ringleader of all evils. Error is here the absence of the good. Now, see, that's interesting. It made it sound like gluttony was the worst of all the evils, but I don't think that's exactly what it was saying. Encompassed and coacted with evils and labors and griefs, desires, wrath, deceits, foolish opinions, and in that which is every one of the forenamed things is here believed to be the greatest good. But see, that's so confusing. It says, and in that which is the worst of all, Asclepius, every one of the forenamed things is here believed to be the greatest good, especially that supreme mischief, gluttony, and the ringleader of all evils. Error is here the absence of the good. It'll be very interesting to see different translations of this one, because as you can see, the translations to English are not as good as some of the other texts that we've gone through. Or maybe that is me in my error to not see the good. Oh, Asclepius. Gotta have some fun, ladies and gentlemen. We're just here trying to expand the mind, so that we can hopefully achieve and reach a greater awareness and understanding of ourselves and our spirituality. But not only that, and reality and the nature of God and all of these ultimate questions, so that hopefully through that increased awareness, we can have a higher quality of life. And so 19, and I give thanks unto God that concerning the knowledge of good, put this assurance in my mind, that it is impossible it should be in the world. Number 20, for the world is the fullness of evilness, but God is the fullness of good, or good of God. 21, but for the emanations of all appearing beautiful are in the essence more pure and more sincere, and peradventure they also the essence of it. 22, for we must be bold to say, Asclepius, that the essence of God, if he have an essence, is that which is fair and beautiful, but no good is comprehended in this world. So I wonder if it's saying like the true goodness or beauty of God cannot be comprehended in this physical realm because it is just too much. You can't even compare it? Yes. And see, in 24, it says, as the eye cannot see God, so neither the fair and the good. No good is comprehended in this world. 23, for all things that are subject to the eye are idols, and as it were, shadows. But those things that are not subject to the eye are eternal, especially the essence of the fair and the good. 24, and as the eye cannot see God, so neither the fair and the good. 25, for those are the parts of God that partake the nature of the whole, proper and familiar unto him alone, inseparable, most lovely, whereof either God is enamored, or they are enamored of God. 26, if you can understand God, you can understand the fair and the good, which is most shining and enlightening, and most enlightened by God. 27, now, there's only 31 here, so this was a short and sweet one for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes I ramble for an hour, which is fun. Usually I'll start these videos and be like, okay, I'm going to do a 20-minute, right to the point video, and I get finished, and I'm like, all right, that must have been short. 57 minutes. I'm like, what? So we'll see. That's my thought again here today. We'll see what actually happens. But like I said, 27 out of 31, so we're almost there. This one will take much contemplation for me. I'll definitely have to reread and recontemplate, but that is the purpose of all of this. So 26, if you can understand God, you can understand the fair and the good, which is most shining and enlightening, and most enlightened by God. 27, for that beauty is above comparison, and that good is as inimitable as God himself. Wow. For that beauty is above comparison, and that good is as inimitable. So inimitable. Like you can't imitate it. And that good is as inimitable as God himself. 28, as therefore you understand God, so understand the fair and the good. For these are incommunicable to any other living creatures because they are inseparable from God. See, that's the paradoxical nature, to where it's like, wait a minute, you're telling me that all of these things are not good, and only God is good, so everything's separate from God. But it's like, no, wait a minute, don't forget that as therefore you understand God, so understand the fair and the good, for these are incommunicable to any other living creatures because they are inseparable from God. 29, if you seek concerning God, you seek also after the fair. For there is one way which leads to the same thing, that is piety with knowledge. Wherefore they that are ignorant and go not in the way of piety dare call men fair and good, never seeing so much as in a dream what is good, but being subsumed and bound by all evil, and believing that the evil is good, they by that means both use it insatiably and are afraid to be deprived of it. And therefore they strive by all possible means that they may not only have it, but also increase it. Wow, that was the most powerful line of, I think, today's whole reading so far, at least for me personally. I mean, this could be different for any individual, that is for certain. But this describes how we can get trapped here in the physical realm and confused as if it's in a dream, to where the things that are not so good for us seem good. And it becomes insatiable. I'm going to read that again. Very powerful. And it helps us see sometimes how we can get trapped in this physical realm and lose track of the spiritual. It's very interesting. I heard someone speak about it before, and they were like, these spiritual avatars that have ascended and come back to us to teach us are sometimes, they are, and it said this before in Hermetics as well, that they are like disgusted with the mortal nature of the physical body and its, wants and desires and all of that kind of thing. And so it's very interesting. Wherefore, this is 30, that they are ignorant and not go in the way of piety and knowledge towards God, dare call men fair and good, never seeing so much as in a dream what is good. So they don't see the real good. They think they do. But being subsumed and bound by all evil and believing that the evil is the good, they by that means both use it insatiably and are afraid to be deprived of it. And therefore they strive by all possible means that they may not only have it, but also increase it. So hopefully we can catch ourselves in that trap. Number 31, in the final verse of the 6th book of the Corpus Hermeticum. Such, O Asclepius, are the good and fair things of men, which can neither love nor hate, for this is the hardest thing of all, that we have need of them and cannot live without them. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was profound and mind-blowing, and that is definitely a boon to the wisdom of the Corpus Hermeticum. I'm going to leave that there, like I said, and actually make a short and sweet video, because that is a lot to contemplate. And as we've learned that the way to come to understand and to attain and to, like it was saying, do this piety, dedication towards God, is through a constant contemplation. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, pure philosophy is a spiritual striving through constant contemplation to attain true knowledge of Atum, the one God, or reality, the universe, including ourselves. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, as always, seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment. Seek to discover the hidden wisdom of the ages, the lost wisdom of the pharaohs. And also remember that there is no way to happiness, because happiness is the way. And so when we can create that ability through this new awareness in our lives, whether it be happiness or enlightenment or bliss, whatever you're seeking, maybe just a new spiritual awareness, whatever, we've been telling ourselves, oh, when I can only get that when I get this far, or I have this much money, or whatever, that becomes irrelevant, because when we can create that ability within ourselves, then we already are there, ladies and gentlemen. And then hopefully the entire journey is wonderful. All right. I love and appreciate each and every one of you that spends time here with me on Wednesdays with Hermes Trismegistus and Thoth, the Egyptian sage god, and as well as all the other wonderful authors and mystics and poets and philosophers that we go through on all the other series that we've done on this channel. Be sure to check out our playlists. We've got a bunch of them. Also, expand the description below and check out the Etsy shop, as well as a link to the book if you want to get it for yourself, to put it on your shelf so that you can follow along in the journey and reference in the future if you're pondering and contemplating on this. And so, also Hermetica linked in the description below. And C60 Purple Power, give yourself the gift of health, the most powerful antioxidant known to man. But thank you so much, though. It's just so much fun to do this. Yesterday we had a really good chat room, and it's just a lot of fun. That's what it's about, ladies and gentlemen. It's having fun and enjoying the journey and continuing that thirst and that quest for knowledge and wisdom, and continuing to discover the lost wisdom of the pharaohs, or the wisdom of the ages. All right. Love you, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, be the change you want to see and be the example that you want to set.